The small world of a child unfolds before him in every daily adventure of sight and sound, smell and taste and touch. These explorations are the indispensable nourishment for his balanced growth. And the more formal learning of all his later years is no substitute for the early stimulation of his senses by constant discoveries of the world of the city around him. Because the heart of a traditional city, like Arles in France, is small and compact, there may be found there a more concentrated and many-sided reflection of even commonplace events and dilemmas of life.
Voilà, bon. Et celle-là, là, par Voilà. Voilà, bon. Ça va. Merci. Au revoir. De 8h à 6h du soir.
Not only will the sense of the city be more complete, but there will be a closer and more vivid knowledge of the countryside and of the people from it in such a city, on even an ordinary errand, than on a trip to, say, an antiseptic modern supermarket. Indeed, the countryside itself may not be far away. When most of the life of the city is just a few child's steps away, the horizons of adventure actually may be closer than in any giant metropolis.
Marco, piston. Marco, monte. Allez. Allez, viens. Allez, monte. Eh non.
For children, and for their parents too, the changing procession of life that should be found in the hearts of all our cities is in danger of vanishing into the past, and without even a reminder of the past to enrich it.
Those cities in history whose names stood high in the memories and affections of men were well-proportioned cities with compact and vigorous hearts. Athens, Pompeii, Venice, Florence, Lübeck, Paris, and Edinburgh. Life in the medieval cities, remember, had a happy combination of unity and diversity. But after the deceptive glow of the Renaissance, the equilibrium and human scale of the medieval city were supplanted by the new despotic forces of nationalism and capitalist industry and finance. The age of free cities gave way to the age of absolute cities, largely creatures of the absolute state, in a new social order that has come to be known as the Baroque period.
The heart of the Baroque city was shaped by the attitudes of the rulers of this new society. The Baroque order obliterated the variety and intimacy of the medieval city, substituting a showplace where the power of the rulers was put on display, dominating the broad avenues that segregated the rich from the poor. In place of the medieval commons for all the citizens were formal parks and gardens for the enjoyment of the court and its friends, where even nature was forced to conform to the Baroque concept of order. To produce and display wealth, to seize and extend power became universal imperatives. The formal impressiveness and sensual beauty did not hide the revival of the aggressive spirit of Rome of the Caesars. Everywhere, the city disclosed this preoccupation with power and control in its geometric order and vast, empty expanses. The ruler's desire for ever more control of his subjects coincided with the capitalist's desire for ever more control of workers and consumers. Economic power and political power reinforced one another. Law, order, uniformity. These were the special products of the Baroque capital. But the law existed to confirm and secure the position of the privileged classes. The order was a mechanical order, based not upon neighborhood or kinship or affection, but on subjection to the ruling prince. And the uniformity, it was the uniformity of the growing bureaucracy. The external means of enforcing this pattern was the army. It was a standing army recruited for permanent warfare, and it became a new factor in the nation, casting its shadow on the whole life of the city. Drilling and parading became great spectacles for the masses. But the grandeur of the spectacle could not mask the ultimate purpose, the control of urban space, and so the control of the people. The formal impressiveness of the Baroque city may delight us today, but probably because we see it from a very different viewpoint than did the citizens of the time.
The rulers of the Baroque city, selfish as they were, at least retained the medieval concept of land and property as a trust, and those elements that were once their private preserves, the great parks, the residential squares, the museums and art galleries, were passed on as legacies for the later enjoyment of all citizens. In the 19th century, naked commercial greed became the principal force that shaped the heart of the city. The city was no longer treated as a legacy or a stewardship, but as a commercial property, a commodity to be carved up in any fashion that might increase profits and raise land values. There was little thought of the future. Fortunately, islands of yet unregimented vitality and delight still flourish in the hearts of all our cities. And these are the magnets which continue to draw men to the city.
One sent in your bunch of grapes, now the bunch is clustered. Be your gold and purple shade.
The marketplace is more than a pleasant and perhaps slightly quaint relic of the traditional city. For thousands of years, the tired heart of the city has been replenished and renewed by the freshness and vigor and skills of the people from the countryside around it. And exchanges between country and city people have value beyond price. To the city also come the unusual, the exotic, the rare. And this mixture, too, is more than an outdated reminder of the traditional city.
Before they were married, that cost 10 and 6. 2 bob, shilling, 9pence, 6pence. I want somebody to buy it that's been a customer, and I'll take 3 halfpence. So I'll have it. Gentlemen there, 3 halfpence. Thank you, sir. Here, man.
In the midst of the produce of all the continents and seas, the city man may become more aware of the world of things and people which lies beyond his gaze and which does not always come to him pre-packaged. The heart of the city may still encourage its vital function of dissent, and conventional views may be challenged by other ideas. There still may be the minor joys, the little adventures, and the hesitant but spontaneous meetings. Even in the shadows of the skyscrapers may be found the whole range of small and personal encounters, the things that need no crowd of spectators, and those that want none. Old men may still have a place in the sun, and the streets of the city may be taken over for the fierce strivings of youth.
Yes, you not me. Then who? Jacqueline. Fool me. Yes, you couldn't be. Then who? Number one. Fool me. Yes, you not me. Then who? Jacqueline. Fool me. Yes, you couldn't be. Then who? Number one. Fool me. Yes, you not me. Then who? Jacqueline.
The heart of the city should gather together and concentrate all of man's activities, so that the separate patterns of life are shaped into a more meaningful and harmonious whole. But the lively heart of the city is threatened everywhere with empty dullness as we obliterate the old in the name of progress. Even the ostensible controllers of the city may be made homeless by the forces of expansion. The St. James's Club, for more than a century a symbol of financial power and influence in Montreal, was forced to give up its comfortable old quarters. What replaced the St. James's Club? Symbol of financial power? Why, the skyscrapers of finance. So long as land is regarded only as a commodity, to be bought or sold like any other commodity, the only measure of land value will be the amount of profitable space that can be heaped upon it. We are transforming our cities into barren precincts for commerce and finance with inexorable and appalling speed. The deterioration of our cities is not only a physical thing, and it is not new. The final disintegration of imperial Rome was a result of heedless expansion, of concentration on showy technical achievements, of a disregard for meaningful human values. Rome built her empire on savage suppression and exploitation, and her greed, in the end, defeated her. Rome's culture became that of the largely mindless body, servile to its own sensations. For rich and poor alike, it was a parasitical existence, an empty and dependent life filled with second-hand emotions, with unappeased appetites, and with mounting anxieties. Rome was not conquered. The barbarian captured the city from within. A Roman himself described this city where all was for sale or show. A man who loves power and wealth and pleasure should live in Rome, for every street is full of the things he values most.
Ancient Rome presents a series of classic danger signals to warn when urban life is moving in the wrong direction. But the Roman path of domination and exploitation, with its violence, its emptiness, and its anxieties, which turn the city into an instrument of self-destruction, is not inevitable. We have a choice for the hearts of our cities. There's also the path of cooperation, of wider communication and understanding, of respect for intimate, personal, human values. Though civilization after civilization has followed the Roman path into oblivion, there have been certain cities in certain ages that, at least for a period of their lives, took the creative path and realized some of men's highest hopes. We have spoken of Athens, Pompeii, Venice, Florence, Lübeck, Edinburgh, Paris. There is also the exemplary and living contrast of Amsterdam.
When the dynamic flood of capitalism surged through Europe, no city rode it more successfully than Amsterdam. The wealth of new continents packed its warehouses and quadrupled its population in less than 60 years. Yet Amsterdam alone, of all the great 17th century commercial cities, grew in harmony and order. This was the golden age for Dutch scientists, philosophers, writers, poets, geographers, explorers, and above all, painters. It was the age of Rembrandt. Even for the average citizen, it was, if not a golden age, at least better than in other cities. The medieval traditions of community responsibility for the aged, the sick, the poor, were retained far longer in Amsterdam than in any other city of the time. As with the cities of Mesopotamia, Amsterdam's survival depended on the control of water. The water that brought mercantile wealth to Amsterdam brought also a more precious and enduring wealth, the preservation of the character of the city itself. To control the water, Amsterdammers had also to control the development and use of all land, public and private. This control tempered the commercial greed that destroyed the fabric of other cities and shaped capitalism's one enduring urban achievement. After more than 3 centuries, the heart of Amsterdam still is a miracle of beauty and utility, of variety and order, of compactness and spaciousness. A happy combination of public vigilance and individual enterprise. Amsterdam preserved its balance as it grew, and in achieving balance, it fostered a richer mode of growth. The cities that most fully realized their creative potentials, as did Athens and Amsterdam, were cities that preserved in their physical forms and their ways of life a close association with the countryside and with the people from it. Landscape and city proclaimed the unity of nature and man, and the city itself reflected human purposes in meaningful and beautiful forms. The culture of cities is in no small part the culture of man.